Guys, welcome back to the podcast. On today's episode, we are joined by the awesome Lauren Griffith, a household name in the Elite 15. She's secured a spot for Chicago World Champs at the Hong Kong Major back in November. Most recently, though, she's teamed up with Lauren Weeks and she's locked in an Elite 15 double spot when they were racing in Houston. So, what a crazy few months is going to be prepping for Worlds. Thanks for joining us, Lauren.
Yeah, absolutely. And it definitely will be crazy, especially because I feel like the time just goes by. June seems like it's so far out. And then, I mean, talking with Anthony, like, okay, we got less than 3 months. And I was like, whoa, all right, is it 3 months? See, we were talking about this before. I don't even know what time is. It's just coming up sooner than I expect. I'll say that.
Yeah, I know, it's so true. I just said, like, when just before we came on to Faye, she was like, oh, we've got like 3 months till Worlds, and I was like, is it though? Like, is it still 3 months, or it's probably less than that now? It's going so quick. But
Yeah.
we have to ask, how was Houston? Because you decided not to race in the Glasgow major. I'm guessing we can maybe get into that if you had reasons behind it.
Yeah.
But you were doing Houston with Lauren. So how did it go?
Racing with Lauren is always really fun. Um, I I didn't show up with my A game, and so a lot of it did end up kind of falling on her to pick up the slack. But I mean, just being out there and racing with Lauren, competing against like Joanna, Tia, a few of the other teams that were in there as well that just had amazing races. Like that atmosphere is so fun. So even though my race was awful and I hated it, I still had fun, which, at the end of the day, that's why I love racing is just because I can get out there and enjoy being with all those other people.
Yeah. Yeah, mate. And then, like, for anyone that's listening that maybe didn't watch the race or didn't see the results, you still came second. Like, I know you're saying like you had a
Yeah,
bud race personally, but I mean, dream race for anybody else. And a high
I
rocks always
know.
hurts, eh?
It does. And I mean, when people ask like, oh, what do you expect when you do your first high rocks? It's like you don't expect anything. You go out and you figure out for yourself just how tough it is. And
Yeah.
you learn as you go. You're like, okay, well, I'm gonna feel awful at this point, and you accept it.
Yeah, so true. And then did the race feel like the doubles race? Obviously you were on the open course, not on the grid. Like, going into it, did you feel like a totally different kind of feeling compared to racing like in the Elite 15, one of the majors? Like, even though you had maybe some pressure to try and qualify, like that the whole atmosphere must have felt quite different.
It is because you just are surrounded constantly. And being on an Elite 15 course when all eyes are just on you and
Mm.
the people in the field where it's just everyone's focused on 15 athletes. It's so different when you're doing something on an open course because as you're running past, it's really fun to like just see people like getting excited for their friends that are also passing by at the same time that it's like they might not be cheering for you but just the atmosphere of it of like everyone is excited for the people that are competing regardless of the event that they're doing or some people might not be going for a qualification spot and they're just there to do it.
Mm.
It is a lot different, and kind of a little less pressure
Yeah.
because
Mm.
people are just focused on their friends and family.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, doing an Elite 15 race, being on the grid, and even like how empty it is, and the fact like you can really hone in on where everybody is and what they're doing, and when you join the next exercise, it's very like obvious. Whereas usually at high rocks, and probably one of the biggest selling points is the fact it goes in waves, and people never know where anyone is. And people quite like the
Yeah.
fact there's not a start and an end of a race, whereas for the Elite 15, there is a first and a last, isn't there? It completely flips.
Oh yeah, and there's no hiding in an Elite 15 race. If you are suffering and not doing well, everyone knows. They can see
Yeah.
it. You can go back and watch it again if you want on a like the live stream. You're like, wow, how nice. They'll make the
Completely.
commentary. They're like, oh yeah, no, that grimace. You can see it. I was watching one of the races this morning on my run, and they were talking about, they're like, well, yeah, she has the grimace, but we usually don't see it that early. It's like they're brutal.
Yeah. To be fair, sometimes you do watch it and the commentators say something, you're like, oh, like they're like, oh,
Yeah,
what is going on there? What are they doing? And it's like, yeah, if you're one of the athletes watching it back, you must be like, dude, give me a break.
I know it's like this is hard. And yes, I am in pain.
Oh God. Oh, that's so funny. I forget that, like, yeah, I mean, it's just there for everyone to watch back on repeat as
Yeah.
many times as they want. Like, that's it, that moment of pain. But what about then? You mentioned that you didn't have your race or the best race in Houston. Was that something to do with why you didn't go to Glasgow, or do you not have the best run up, or was it just not your day, or what kind of happened?
Yeah, I'm sure you guys could tell, like I don't necessarily post a lot, or I don't necessarily post like personal things. Just over the past few months, honestly, like been having some health stuff that I've been trying to figure out, and I didn't feel like if I showed up in that last major, it would have been worth it for me with how I've been feeling. So I was like, I'm just gonna put everything I got into the doubles for Houston.
Mm.
And I'm glad that tried to focus on that instead. Otherwise, I don't think it would have been much, much fun as I had,
Yeah, and it
which
was
was
quite
still
close, wasn't
tough.
it? Like the major race in Glasgow was like on the
Oh
Wednesday or
yeah,
whatever, wasn't it? And the girls like flew out the Thursday, and you were competing on Saturday.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. And so Lauren had told me, she's like, yeah, we raced that evening, like that Wednesday night, early Thursday morning flight, which meant like, by the time you get back and you're packing up everything, she's like, I didn't sleep. Like, oh, thanks for carrying that race for me though.
Yeah, yeah, cheers. I don't think there's many other people that probably could do that. Hey, and her like Lauren and Joanna, maybe like they're probably the two that
Oh yeah.
could rock up and do that, but everybody else would be like, I mean, we were just talking before about time differences and not knowing what time we are
Yeah.
where. Like their body clock must have been all over the place.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that's when with having race times that so like you can't plan when you show up for a high rocks. Like you usually find out the week of. This
Yeah.
is when you're racing and you're like, well, surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, like everyone goes like prep and train at the time that you race, but you don't actually find out till like so last minute that you don't. I mean, I guess you guys kind of know you'll probably be in the evening if you're doing an Elite 15 race.
Yeah, which I'm such a morning workout
Mm.
person that the evening races, I'm like, this is bedtime. I,
Yeah.
I'm ready to I'm ready to just curl up, watch some Netflix, and then go to sleep. And they have us out there racing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so true though. It's really hard. Like, I mean, I guess the adrenaline and like once you get to the venue, you probably start to like get pumped and get in it. But it's like it's also being at the end of your day. You've got all day to think about the race, I guess. Like, how do you find it like mentally competing in the Elite 15? Do you like now you've had quite a lot of experience, do you find it easier or harder because of more pressure or
Uh, I don't know. I always put so much pressure on myself regardless of the event. It just even doing like family 5Ks with like a local group where it's like most of the people out there are like 10, 12-year-olds. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so scary. Like we're doing a race. It's just a 5K, but I'm still a little nervous. And my husband's like, okay, you can calm down. Like we're just here for fun. And I'm like, yeah, but my fun is I want to do well. So no matter what, I always put a lot of pressure on myself. So I think um to me having to sit there all day and think about it and like just the build up to it is so hard.
yeah. I
And
mean
how
you
do you,
oh no,
yeah.
go on,
No,
sorry.
go on. No, go on. I was
I was
gonna
gonna
say, do you have a nap or anything in the day? And do you break it up or do you try and stay awake or?
No, I'm usually just awake, and recently they've been having like the briefings quite a bit before our races. So most of the time I just end up sitting in the a lounge area that they have, and like Kate, Lauren, and a few other people have also just been hanging out in there too. So for the past few majors, it's just been us hanging out, sprawled out on the couches, trying to just relax a little bit before the race.
Oh
Pass the
man.
time.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. What you've had, considering you do like get quite nervous, put a lot of pressure on yourself, you've had some incredible races and you qualified in Hong Kong, and I presume you maybe felt a little bit of pressure going into that race after Amsterdam to try and get that spot. So, because I know all the girls want to try and get it as far in advance as they can, obviously, because then pressure's off, you can train and work towards worlds. In the Hong Kong race, were you aware of where you were in the pack and like what place you had to get to be able to qualify? And could you talk us through that race a little bit?
Yeah, I was definitely very aware of where I was. I felt like I suffered quite a bit more in that one too, but
There's a
it
theme.
ended up just I, I I that must be my motto is just like we're here to suffer. It's fine. Uh, but I with how I was feeling, like there was a point that I think it was like burpees. I was like, oh gosh, I'm about ready to just crawl all over the place. And um, at that point, I was like, we're going to put in minimum work to get what I need. And that was just kind of my focus of like, okay, where can I push to make sure I can keep the spot I'm in and stay ahead of everyone else? Just because I wasn't feeling great in that one. So
Yeah.
it's tough when you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward and doing your best race, but there are some days that it just doesn't go that well, and you gotta do the work that you can on that day to show up and at least do the best possible in the circumstance.
Yeah, and it is like the racing that you guys are doing is strategic as well. You know, you're not always going for a time. Like you had one aim at that race, I guess, was to qualify for Worlds. You were in a good position. You were doing what you needed to do to get to the end. It's a clever way to race, isn't it? There's no point. If you wanted that position, you wanted that position. You ticked, you got the job done. Perfect.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing a lot of people don't realize about the Elite 15 races is that most of the time, sure, it'd be awesome to like, we can't all be Lauren Weeks. It'd be awesome to get close to the world record or under an hour and do all these great, like get great times, but you really are showing up there to get a spot, like a certain placement or, a qualification for worlds. So it's a whole different ball game when you're out there because it's you're going out really fast at the start too. We go flying, and most of the time when you're doing a pro wave, sure you can go out fast, but it's different when you're focused more on like, okay, here's the kind of times that I'm shooting for versus I'm trying to beat the girls next to me that like we are talking about. With the waves, you don't really know. There's no start or end. It's just everyone's out there going constantly, but you know exactly like, okay, this is how far ahead someone else is, or this is where someone is right behind me. And it just kind of adds to that pressure mid-race.
Mm.
Yeah. And like we hear kind of people talking a lot about like running their own race and like sticking to their kind of own game plan. But I do find it quite interesting in the sense that I guess you can do that to a certain extent. But like you say, when you are in that group and, if everyone was to go out super hot, and if you get so far, like I guess there's only so much time someone can make up, and you don't know how fit or race ready or like how anyone else is feeling. You only know how you're feeling. So do you find it difficult to, like, I guess maybe not get carried away or stick to your race plan? Or do you feel like you're more experienced now, so you know, okay, I can only do this, this, and this, and that will get the best out of me?
Oh, I like to think that I'm much more strategic than I actually am. Um, I, I I just want to go hard all the time. And I'm sure that there could be some benefit to like holding back at certain points, but um, there's, yeah, the running your own race and then competing for a placement, it's a fine line to walk.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you could run your own race and place well, but if you're going for a certain position, you have to know like where you need to push and like where people are and be more uncomfortable than them to like get to those spots. So it's a balance of knowing your strengths and your weaknesses and also the strengths and weaknesses of everyone else around you and diving into that.
Yeah. Oh, so I was just thinking, like, I was going to ask a question about, like you've just said, it's. I think you're all very similar, aren't you? At Elite 15, there's not much between you girls, but obviously it must be something like who can suffer the most, or just on that day who's feeling a bit better. So my first one was, do you think it's just like a matter of suffering when you get to the top, and some people can suffer more? But also, do you watch back? I know you said you watch back some races. Do you watch to see like what happens to other people? I was just like, God, you could literally watch and see like how much they suffer and where they struggle on a race. So if you ever, do you do anything like that? I feel like watching back
Oh,
races or like what happens to other people, because you're not aware of everyone, are you? And you must be like, oh, that person really suffers when it gets to the sled. So if I'm ever next to them, I'm gonna just like smash the sled to, make them think, make them suffer a bit more.
yeah. Be like, oh, you're gonna hate your
Yeah,
life.
yeah. A bit like, when Lance Armstrong goes, like, he used to like ride about, I know Lance can be a bit of a controversial character, but when he used to be in the Tour de France, he said he always smiled when he rode past someone, even if he was in agony, because then they thought he was fine. So then it would like, you could just smile as you're pushing a sled past someone that's having a really bad time, and it just, no?
I mean, especially on the sleds, everyone is like, your head is
Head
just straight
down.
at the ground, and you're like, heaven take the wheel because we're going for it. And you're like, this is the second or third station in, and I hate life so much. The sleds are so painful. But yeah, when I go back and watch, I actually don't watch any of the ones that I compete in just because I don't like watching those. Because I'm like, oh wow, I really am dying. And I mean, the pictures that they get are proof enough that, when I see those, I'm like, people watch that and they see me like this. That's awful.
Yeah, but then people are
Um,
inspired. You don't even realize people are like, wow, I want to be like her. You probably think, oh, I look awful, but everyone's going, I wish I could do that.
yeah, they're like, wow, she's in so much pain. And it's like, yes, I am. And it shows everywhere. But the one I was listening to, it was the one in Glasgow, and um, it was interesting because they were talking about like, when Lauren and Joanna were head to head, like, okay, Lauren might fall back on the sleds here, but Joanna, like, she's going to push through, and Lauren's probably going to make up time in these areas. So it is interesting to know, like, okay, here's where I might make up time if I'm by this group, and where, I might be able to kind of squeeze past, knowing that if they pass me here, I'm going to be okay because my strength
Mm,
is in this other section. Um, because it can be such a big mind game when you're in a race like that and you start falling back early on, that you're just like, shoot, there's too like they're too far gone. But I've seen it so many times this year that there are girls that they come off some of the first stations almost dead last, and then top five by the end.
mm.
So it's crazy how much switching happens, especially in the women's field, and outside of one or two, um, how much like churn there is in placements and everything just throughout all of the stations.
Yeah, it is very true. Like, and I think, like you say, there's been girls that have come into the skier like 14th, 15th, and then ended up just gradually kind of taking places throughout the race. And how do you like tell yourself to keep going, or like you just said there, like sometimes, you know, if you fall back early on, or you feel like you're maybe towards the back of the pack or the second half, like what do you say to yourself? Do you have any like mental tips that you kind of use to try and carry on, or is it pure just suffer and go?
Yeah, I like on the runs trying to pick someone in front of me and just like mentally noting like, okay, on this turn, I'm making up like this bit of a gap on it. I'll like closing that gap from where they are, and just trying to be like, okay, the faster you go, the faster you're done. I tell myself that a lot, and it helps.
Yeah, yeah. You're still gonna suffer, aren't you? Whether you suffer like
Right.
a few minutes longer, or like you're not gonna slow down that much that the suffering's gonna be any better.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like the longer I'm out here, the more time I have to be running around doing things. It's like, I want, especially the night races, I'm like, I just want to go to bed.
Yeah.
Let's get this done and then you can go to sleep.
I've got a great series on Netflix. I've got like two episodes
Yeah,
left. Yeah.
exactly. You're like, what's going to happen next? I got to find out. I need to finish this race.
Maybe that's the key, like for a night race, to get into a really good Netflix series and just leave like the cliffhanger. So the faster you do it, the
Oh,
faster you find out what you've got. Oh.
you're just out there like far off glance, just you're like pulling on the sleds. You're like, I don't know what happens. I gotta find out. They're like, what's going on in her mind? And you're just
Yeah.
like, the Netflix show.
The
I need to know.
next time the commentators are commentating and they're like, what is going on with Lauren Griffith? She looks like
Yeah.
she's somewhere else.
They'll be like, the mind, it's totally
Yeah.
gone. Just
Yeah.
blank face.
Oh God, I love it. I love it. And then what about the difference between racing the solo? Obviously, you're in your own head, you're doing it for you, like you're trying to get your qualification or your placement or podium or whatever your goal is for the race. For the racing that doubles race with Lauren, do you feel like there's less time to be in your own head because it's like, okay, you go, I go, you do, like let's run, let's do this, like it's a lot more chaotic, I guess, especially at the speed that you girls are going. Like, you know, I don't even know how you communicate at all. You're like flying around there. But how do you find the rate, like the race in your head when it's a doubles?
It does change things because even the first doubles that I did with Lauren, we were laughing after because there was a point both of us were like, I had to use the bathroom so bad, and I almost stopped us. But
Oh.
then you're like, I can't do that to my partner. And I was like, man, if I would have known that, I would have been like, yeah, let's go a little bathroom break mid race. But when you're out there going, you're like, I gotta try to like dig a little deeper because someone else is relying on me too. Um, so the communication, like we did go in with a plan, and obviously that totally got turned on its head. So it's just you push hard, but then you also have to be realistic of like if I push too hard at this point and keep going, I'm not going to have anything. So that's kind of where it turned to for our doubles was, we had the split for the stations and then we're going to hit the runs hard. And I had to tell Lauren, if I keep doing some of the station stuff, I'm not going to have anything on the runs. She's like, okay, I guess like this is where I'll pick up a little bit more.
Wow.
Yeah. No, but it,
That's the way to work though, isn't it? It's like, I mean, we've done it a few times in like double races where we've had like a plan, and then one of you goes into the station, one of you's decided they're going to start, like for example, we were doing run race with burpee board jumps, and I usually start and finish it, and I was like, oh my God, I had such bad stitch. I was like, I can't do anything. I was like, Am, you're gonna have to do it. I just like stood there and just held my stomach. I was like, you just have to adapt to how, you never know how you're gonna feel, do you?
Yeah, and it does take swallowing some of your pride to be like, I can't.
Yeah, yeah.
And here you go.
Yeah. It's funny, I've just ended up on burpee broad jumps, and this is the one I just can't do.
Yeah.
Oh no, I
Oh,
can't
shit.
do any burpees. I guess you
I'm
can do them.
yeah. I'm fine for the rower. That's all good.
Yeah. Oh, not even that. I was supposed to do 400 meters of it and I hit like 200 and I was like, "Oh, Lauren, I am so sorry." And she's like,
Okay.
"Okay."
And can
Which
I
is
just confirm you're still friends after
we are.
that?
It was actually really because I get really emotional with racing. Like I'm pretty stoic most of the time, but with racing, like you put so much of your heart and soul
Mhm.
into it. And knowing how much like I ended up having to put on Lauren during that race, that it was like I was suffering, but she was also suffering because I couldn't, you know, do what I was hoping to do in that race. And my mom was there too, and she had a chance to talk to Lauren, and Lauren was like, "She's just too hard on herself. Like she did great. We did just fine." And I was like, "But it wasn't enough."
Yeah, I think so
So
many people will relate though to that. I think like it is so true. And you go in and you have this plan and like you want to do the best for you and for your partner. And it's heartbreaking when you feel like at the end you've not done what you feel like you could have done and you could have achieved, and you feel like you've put something on someone else. But I do think like the other person also just wants the best for you and knows that you've given everything. You guys know each other
yeah.
inside out. Like she knows that you will have done everything that you could do on the day, and it likewise, if roles were reversed, like it would have been the exact same. So I think like, yeah, you probably are too, like you're an elite athlete and you probably are too hard on yourself. Like yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's just when you want to do really well and it doesn't happen, you're like, "Oh, shoot."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all that hard work down the drain.
Yeah, you put so much time and effort into it, like, and you guys are training hours and hours, and it takes over your life. It is your life, like,
Yeah.
so when it comes down to that one moment, I guess it's like a bitter pill to swallow. But how do you pick yourself up, and like how are you now refocusing? Does it fuel the fire for the world champs? Like, does it make you want to train harder? Like, how does it affect you?
Yeah, and it does, and I'm trying to find a good in between of like pushing harder, training hard, but also making sure I'm getting the right kind of recovery. I think with some of the things that kind of made it so I wasn't competing in that last major, when I have a harder time with training for some reason, and my mind doesn't go to maybe you should like take it easy and recover. I'm like, oh, well, maybe it just feels hard because I'm not pushing myself hard enough. And I make it even more difficult to where it's like, it's hard. I go harder. I'm not recovered. Well, maybe I should push harder. So it's a vicious cycle. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to like train hard, make sure I'm ready and prepared for worlds, but also like understand that I am human and probably need breaks every once in a while too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a it's probably a big thing that's going to start coming out with high rocks, because it's such a young sport. And especially, I mean, I don't know what it's like in America, but I feel like it is kind of following the UK now, as well as like the Asia Pacific area. But there's a race, especially like UK with Europe. You could do a race every single week if you wanted to, and people are
Yeah.
racing so often and training harder than ever. And then you've got Instagram where everyone sees everyone training, and you're suddenly like, oh God, I'm not training today. I only did like an hour's run. I should go to the gym. And the pressure builds, and people think more is more and race more. And we're probably going to get a lot of overtraining syndrome, injuries. Like, yeah, there's a lot I think probably going to come from it. And with it being so new, people haven't quite worked out the best way to train, I guess, because there's so many different modalities and people are coming from different sports. So it's, yeah, probably going to see it a lot more.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to understand for like a lot of people, it can just be like at that time, the volume intensity or whatever it is for your training probably can't be as high as it could be any like at a different time. And for me, like that was something I had to realize was like, oh, there's a lot going on with like work and other things in life. And so I had to kind of take some steps back from training and
Yeah.
and the daily grind to reset and make sure I'm ready for when June comes around. Because really that's the time we all want to peak anyway. I don't want to just have like a good race at the start of the year and then not do well at Worlds.
Yeah,
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 totally.
100%. I think it's really important though to like hear you say that like other things in life, like life can be stressful, and then exercise is a stress on the body. So like you're just putting both together. And I think so many people now do use like exercise to help with mental health and be able to like go for a run and escape. And that is also really important. But to remember that that is still stressing out your body, like, and you do need to look at the whole picture, and like you say, everything that's going on with like you at the time. Sometimes you just might need to dial it down a little bit, and that could have a positive effect, not a negative effect on your fitness anyway. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it's really interesting. So what does the next kind of few months, weeks, I won't count it down, I don't know.
I think
Oh,
it's
I
like
know
12
the
weeks, I think.
countdown.
I
Yeah.
know. What does it kind of look like for you? Have you got any other races in, any holidays, are you just kind of getting into a routine? What's the plan?
Yeah, I have a big training block planned leading into Worlds, with some decas thrown in there.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I'm doing some of those just, kind of fun, fun races. Like I'm actually doing the SoCal race with Vivian and a few other people.
Oh.
So for me, I'm like, woo, vacation. But for the most part, I want to be able to focus on dialing in everything for Worlds. So um I don't think I'll be doing any other High Rocks events, but just having some fun and training hard for the next few
Yeah.
months.
That's awesome. I feel like it's a good block now, isn't it? Like 12 weeks, 3 months. It's like a good time for people to make like great, yeah, jumps, or like put the endurance, like a bit of a base back down and then build up again, rather than just having, 4 to 6 weeks and then you're off. It's quite cool to see everyone have like 3 months to dial in and get
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
And have
Yeah,
you
and
been
I mean, like you, oh,
oh, no.
sorry.
I was gonna say, have you been Chicago? Have you raced Chicago before?
I
Have you
have, yeah.
oh, you have, yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because
so that was one of my first ones that I did before qualifying for the majors. So it was really fun, like seeing all the Elite 15 racers. And I was like, oh, they're so cool. And I still think that. I'm like, oh my gosh, all these people are so cool.
And you're one of them. And then
yeah.
you see, you thought they were cool
It's
when they were
different when it's
probably
yourself.
suffering.
You're like, oh.
Oh, that's quite nice. Like a full circle moment. Like, nice to be back in Chicago and for the world and racing in the Elite 15.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for that. And of course, selfishly, I'm very grateful that it's a short plane ride because, as you guys know, where you're based out of, international travel just kind of kicks you in the butt
Yeah.
every time that you do it. So I'm like, this is nice. It's a, 3.5 hour plane ride and I'm there.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
That is nice. I feel like
Yeah.
it's such an advantage, isn't it? I guess like loads of UK racers and Europeans got it last year with going to Nice, so it's quite nice now that you guys have got it
Yeah, I
over
think
in
it's
America.
good that it changes around, so it's like different
Yeah.
for everyone. And then we have to ask, you've mentioned Deca there. So we were having a little chat, and we heard that you and Vivian had a little well, Vivian actually said she knew that you were going to be friends because you shouted at her, so we were wondering if you could elaborate on the story of you shouting at her in a deca race, and if this is a common theme in your racing, if you shout. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, I like to think I'm a very pleasant person. When it comes to racing, there's just something, and I tried to say it in the nicest way possible, but especially when you're trying to go so fast, like the runs on a deca, you're pretty much doing like a sprint each 500.
Oh.
And the 500 meters, like you're flying through it. And we were in a close doubles race where it was like our partners were finishing up the station. I was about to head out on the run, and Vivian was standing perfectly in the way of like the run lane to get out. And it was like her and two other like officials that were kind of judging the stations. And I asked like one guy, and I was like, "Hey, can you move out of the way? Because like I'm about to go." And Vivian just, she's trying to recover, and she was standing there, and I was like, "You too, get out of the way." And she was like, "Oh gosh, sorry." And you got race brain going on. And she was like, "I didn't realize I was in the way." And I was like, "If you didn't move, I was just gonna straight through." So it was a good thing you got out of the way.
That's so funny.
And then that was it. Then afterwards, you were friends, all was forgiven in the race moment.
All is forgiven. Yes, I know. And there are other times when I'm racing, like there's no nice way when you're tired and out of breath to
Yeah,
like
so true.
vocalize like, "Hey, I'm coming to your left" or something. So Lauren even said that she was laughing during our doubles because as I was going around, I'd be like, "On your left," and like super loud and obnoxious. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I don't have the energy to be like, "Excuse me, I'm coming by." I'm like, "I'm coming." And it's just, you gotta go. So I
It's
guess
so
watch out if
true.
I'm on a race course.
It is true though. Like you haven't got that extra energy to be like, "Oh, please, thank you, excuse me, coming through. Good job, don't mind you." Like you just want to get through and get out the way
Oh
and
yeah.
move. Yeah, of course you
Yeah,
do.
especially when you're going at a Lauren Weeks pace, you
Yeah,
can't you can't afford
guys, don't hold
any
me
extra
back.
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, "Oh, I almost need like a little bell attached to her so when we're going by, people can hear her coming." I would just tuck in behind me and be like, "Okay, you got this."
Oh my
Oh,
god. What is it like? Is it that crazy racing with Laura? Like how do you like pace the runs? Do you just try and stay with her? Are you like you just go and I'll try and jump on the back of you or how do you pace
Well,
it?
fortunately, she did ask before. She was like, "Do you want me to pace the runs and like you just kind of like tuck in behind, or do you want to lead it?" And I said, "Lauren, if you lead this, I will die. So I, if you could just like, I would take the inside lane, and if there wasn't enough room, she was like running all the way out and around." And I was like, "Good, she needs the extra because that makes sure that at her like her pace and her speed, I can keep up with her." So
It's
yeah,
like a
I was
spaniel,
like,
isn't it? It's like I just send the spaniel off to go do a little bit more running and then they'll join me and I'll be like fine.
yeah, it kind of was. I was like, okay, it's a good thing she's taking the long way around because I need it.
Oh my god. Oh
oh.
man, that's so good. But it's cool. I'm guessing it really works well because did you sit down with Anthony before you do anything? Because obviously you're trained together and she knows you inside out. You probably know her quite well as well. And Anthony knows both of you really well. So you could probably, work out a race strategy to a point together because you are so intertwined and you're all doing like similar
Yeah.
training.
Yeah, and we did. Like I said, we did have a plan. It kind of went out the window, but
Mm.
in theory, it was a really great plan.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you can use it. You can go again, just like reinvent it for Chicago. You can use it again. It's not all is not lost.
It isn't, and that's why we have 3 months building up to that, is that we can really nail that down and make sure it actually gets executed this time.
And that's the place to execute it.
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. How do you feel about the two races? I think the solo is on the Thursday and the elite doubles is on the Saturday, I believe.
I think you're right. I
Have you thought
am
that far ahead as to how you're going to recover in between? No.
Oh,
Lie
damn,
down.
nice one, Em. No, she's gonna go to bed like,
so
do
you actually think about that? No.
Now I'm thinking about it.
I know. Now I am. Honestly, when I travel, it's really funny because we do go around the world for all of these races, and my coworkers, like I work in tech and like doing software sales, and for them, when they hear that like I compete in racing, they're like, "Oh, that's so nice." Like they think of it more of like, "Oh, this is a fun little hobby." And I'm like, I'm not just flying around the world just cuz.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Oh, you get to go on another vacation like in Europe?" I'm like, "No, for me it's more like a business trip. Like you get there, you rest and recover for your race happens, and then you recover and go home."
Yeah, there's
There's
no vacation.
No, like all the sightseeing, like if my husband comes with me, he's like, "Okay, I'll be gone for a few hours," and I'm just dead on the couch. I'm like, "Okay, have fun."
Enjoy seeing Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a niece, he's
Take a
like,
photo of
"Oh,
the Eiffel Tower.
yeah." It's like I walked on the beach and I'm like, "Oh, that's so nice."
While you're there
Uh,
drinking your creatine protein shake with your
oh
legs
yeah,
up,
yeah.
like, oh man, yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
Basically, on the Friday in between, you're just gonna be on the sofa. That's
Oh,
basically
pretty
what.
much. Yeah.
No
Yeah.
sightseeing in Chicago.
Yeah, that Netflix show, I'm gonna be binging it all Friday.
There best be a good one coming out. But I
I
think
know.
like it's quite nice because like some of the I know there's some people now that have gone like fully pro or like fully dedicated to just doing high rocks. But do you like having the separation and maybe being with people that aren't always talking? I mean, this is really controversial because we're on a high rocks podcast, but like aren't always talking about high rocks. You know, just someone that they don't understand, but you can have other conversations, even though they think it's really sweet that you do your little European trips and things.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but it's also like I love being surrounded by people that just get it.
Okay, yeah.
That's one of like when we all get together with like the Elite 15, we have the briefings. It is so nice to talk to people that just understand
Mm,
what you do on a daily basis. Because yeah, sure, it's nice to talk about other things, but like this is such a big part of my life
yeah.
that, it's what excites me and what I want to talk about. Like,
Well, that's all right then.
I don't know.
Otherwise, this
Yeah,
hour has been pretty awkward.
yeah. I know you're like, oh gosh, this girl.
She's like, oh, bloody high rocks.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
how do you juggle everything? Like, I guess just a lot of early mornings and later nights training. Like, how do you find it hard to fit everything in that you want to do, or do you maybe feel that's why the recovery's not quite been on point potentially? Or
yeah, it could be. I think last year with like my work schedule, I could find like this really good balance of like doing my early morning training, work for a block, afternoon training, and then I just work the rest of the day. And this year, with like how things have panned out with work, like my workload has just increased. So it's like finding the time, and like honestly, some days it's like a mental of just like, oh gosh, I have so much to do for work, and somehow I have to like squeeze in training. It's a lot.
yeah.
So I feel like it makes a difference, and you know, I'd love to do full-time athletics and all that, but for me right now the money's not there, so we got the day job.
Yeah,
No,
it's
totally.
such a hard like compromise, isn't it? Because like, yeah, you need to make a living, and
Yeah.
I guess high rocks is so new. It's you know, we might be in a different place in like 10, 15 years when you've got kids coming into high rocks and it's our sport that they've gone straight into and things. You don't know where it's going to go. There might be pro contracts and things like that. But right now it's still at the level where you guys at the top are still juggling like work and training like crazy hours to fit the consistency and to be able to compete at these races. It's pretty amazing. It is incredible that you can compete at such a high level, but also hold down like jobs and families, and yeah, it's mental.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And I think like we've heard a few times from a couple of other people, like Kate Davey, saying the like training with the hybrid engine and the volume generally is quite high. Like it's on the higher side for training, like maybe a bit lower intensity, but a lot of volume. So that's just time consuming. Like for the, I guess it's hard to like slot in because you can't make it go any quicker. Like if you've got to do like, I don't know, an hour on the rower and an hour run and then some strength, like you can't make it go any quicker than that. Like it's a juggle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It is. And I mean, like, even for example, today I was looking ahead and I was like doing the mental math. I'm like, this section takes this long. I'm like, okay, so I'll be there like an hour and a half, which means when I do my cool down, I'll just be doing emails and responding to messages.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it is. You've probably got to find. I've seen so many people doing like zone 2 cycles just like on their computers and things like that, isn't it? Like just trying to find ways to fit it in, and you have to be a bit, you have to, work with what you've got, don't you?
Yeah, you get a bit creative. I
Creative, that
mean,
was the word.
oh yeah. I've been on like actual company. I hope no one in my company hears this. I've
No,
been
no, of
on
course
like
they go. They
actual
think you go
company
on
meeting.
trips
I
to.
know. Yeah, they're like,
They
she
think you
just
go
does
on
this for
chill
fun.
trips to Europe. Now maybe they might get intrigued. They'll be like, "Oh, let's find out what Lauren
I'm
does."
like,
And go on, you're
yeah.
about to spill the beans. Do you still want to do that, or
I
we can beep
I
it out?
can. I pay attention. Like if I have like rowing or like a block of that, I've actually been on like company meetings and just have it like posted in front of me, and I'm like, just like do my little row thing, watching like the company meetings and listening in and hoping that like I'm paranoid that I'm like, if I accidentally come off of mute, they're just gonna hear like this, yeah, whirring and heavy breathing and be like, okay, who's off mute? And I'd be like, can't get to it fast enough. That's my nightmare.
Oh my God, can you imagine? It'd be so funny. Just
I'm
coming like
really-
really close to the screen and then go really far back again.
I feel
Just
like
like,
I'm really
"Ooh."
disappointed you're not doing this podcast on a rowing machine now. Like, come on, you should have managed your time better.
I know. Well, what am I even doing? This is,
Oh,
terrible.
oh
Next
man,
time.
that is
Next
so
time.
good. That is so good.
dear.
Oh man, we're talking about time management. I mean, we've nearly had you on here for an hour. Do you think we should start on the cheeky insights? Because I'm
Yeah.
sure
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sure I'm feeling like guilty now that I really want to make sure you get your training in and your work and like
I planned for it. We're good.
you planned. Okay, cool. Happy
Yeah.
days.
Yes, but we can start with the first question, which everyone loves to know, is what shoes do you wear to race high rocks?
Yes, I was using some of the Saucony endorphins.
Yeah.
I switched this year to the Nike Vaporfly
Oh yeah.
just because I wanted to try something new.
Do you like them?
I've really liked them. Yeah, because I feel
Yeah.
like they still get enough of the grip that you need, but like I don't necessarily want like a massive pillow underneath my foot.
Yeah.
Like the cushion, I'm also very like accident prone. I've rolled my ankle running on a flat surface, so that extra cushion could definitely do me in.
Yeah, fair. I mean, they're one of our favorite trainers. They're probably one of my favorite trainers I've ever worn. Like we wear them all the time, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, love them.
Yeah, interesting. So you're gonna stick with them for, are you not sure, for Worlds, maybe? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, just
Yeah.
I mean, also they're so expensive that you can't just be
Oh no.
buying new ones every single time you do a
Literally.
race.
How
Yeah.
trainers got this expensive, I don't know. I remember we used to buy a
Oh
pair
my
for like
gosh.
40 quid. Not
Yeah, I
anymore.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you spent 100
Yeah,
quid
and
on
even
trainers, everyone would be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
yeah, and now you just buy like a regular running shoe, and that's still like 100, just
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that.
And now you
I
need
know.
like 4 different types of running shoe because now there's not just a running shoe. It's like, what? You haven't got like 7 different running shoes. You need like different ones for different things.
Yeah,
It's not just one
exactly.
running shoe like it used to be.
Yeah.
No, and when I go to like on trips, I swear half my bag is just shoes.
Yeah.
Like clothes, I'm like, oh, I only need like 3 or 4 outfits, and then it's like, hey, but I need this pair for this workout, and all of a sudden it's like there goes half the space I have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with all these shoes, all these
Yeah.
trainers, totally.
So many people relate to that. It's so true. Okay, next one is, which has been your favorite High Rocks venue to race in?
That's a tough one. I really liked Brisbane.
Oh.
Oh,
Um, yeah, and I feel like that probably also had to do with just being able to be in Australia. That was so
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Like, like
It's my trip.
yeah, I know. Well, that was actually one of them that my husband, he did come with me and he's like, okay, we're here in Australia. You have to come outside with me at least once. I was like, okay, fine. And we went to a koala sanctuary and I was like, I could end the
Oh,
trip here. This is all I
that's
needed.
so cool.
Yeah, but outside of that, the setup was really well done, which I enjoyed. Honestly, I kind of wish that they would just standardize
Mm,
venues. Like, I understand why they can't, but it'd also be great if they could do that so that way no one's
mm.
like, oh, if you got a good time, it was just because you had a fast course. Like, everyone would know you got that time.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Do you think they can do that in the future? Do you think that's coming, or do you think? I mean, I feel like it's quite a far way off at the moment, but
yeah, and I think that is part of some of the allure is like the venues are different.
mm,
So I don't know if like High Rocks would even see it as something beneficial, but that's my hope. Like I hope that
yeah.
they could do that one day. So
Yeah,
we'll
I
see.
think also as like I think for like coaches like as well, anyone like training people get really disheartened if they don't get a PB at somewhere, and you're like, but you've just done it in a different place. Like, you can't
Yeah.
really compare it. Like, you might have done better on that day, but the course was different or busier, or it's
Yeah.
hard to. Yeah, it is hard if they're not standardized.
And I guess for you
Yeah.
guys as well, like the qualification for, depending, I know there's the auto qualification as well, depending on like the majors and the world champs, but otherwise it is time based. So it's
Yeah.
like you're
You need to pick the fast course, don't you?
yeah,
But
yeah,
what's the fast course? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think that does kind of become a little bit more restrictive on people of like, okay, you gotta hope like you showed up at the right fast course that's close
Yeah.
by that you could afford to travel to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's hard, isn't it? There's so much to go into it.
Yeah.
um okay, next one is, which is your favorite High Rock station?
Farmers carry. Honestly, I don't like any of them. They all are awful, but at least the farmers carry, you can be done really quickly. So I'm like, that seems nice. You're like, I can do anything for a minute and a half, and I can survive this.
That is so funny. Actually don't like it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
That was a good answer. I actually don't think we've had someone that said farmers carry before.
No, I
really?
think a lot of people don't like the farmer's carry because it's over so quick that you're back on the run so quick. Like, I think
Oh,
that's what, like, if you, but I can see the logic behind it. It's if you look at a station like on its own, like,
Yeah.
it is
yeah,
over quickly, isn't it? Well, for some people, I
yeah.
mean.
Yeah, I guess, depending on how much chalk you can put on and how much
Yeah.
you can hold on for dear life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you
Such
forget to
an
put
awkward
chalk
like
on.
waddle.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
like the weights, you're like, you're like, wow, I'm moving so fast. But I love watching the videos of people doing farmers carry because it's like just kind of like they're shuffling around and it's bouncing into them. It's
Do you watch
beautiful.
yourself back do that? Do you watch yourself do that back, or is that
Oh
one
no,
you just don't want
especially that
to
one. That's the one that I'm like, ooh, we fast
fast
forward
forward?
that. No.
Oh god.
It is so horrible, like watching yourself do stuff because you think you feel really good, and then you watch yourself and you're like, oh, what the hell? Or someone
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
sends you a picture or something. You're like, oh, I look awful. I look like I'm struggling so much, but I felt great. Felt like I was moving
Yeah.
so fast. Oh,
I know, and it's especially like I've done like hill sprints before where I'm like, oh wow, I probably look like I'm going so fast. And then I watch and it's more just like like upward shuffle. And I'm like, ooh, never mind. I'm not as fast as I think I am.
yeah, you just feel like, I mean, like, you'll probably laugh, but like we did one of the guys that we know back home, this is a total tangent, but Robbie Simpson, he did some like running with us. He's a really good runner and he does a lot of trail running, and he said to us like, go to this local hill and I want you to start at the bottom and run to the top as fast as you can. It takes around 6 minutes. I think he does it in about 3. But he was like, 6 is good. So we were filming it during lockdown, so we set some cameras up and we went. I went first and then Em went, but like I was putting a video together afterwards of like one of the bits. I don't think I can even say it. And then Em like came running up past one of the cameras, but to the point where she watched it, she was like, "Have you slowed that down?" I was like, "No, that's literally how fast you're moving." And it was so slow that you were in the screen for so long. Oh my god, it was so funny, wasn't it, Em? I'm not just being
I think
mean.
oh no, it's so true.
It was like the slowest thing I've ever seen. She thought she was going so fast. Oh my god.
I obviously did think, like, I actually thought I was going so much faster than I was, and that's why I thought you'd slowed it down. I was like, that's really mean. Are you like taking the piss out of me and you've slowed it down? And I was like, oh no, that's just actually me. But at least I felt like Superwoman in my head, you know, like flying
Oh
up.
god.
Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the moment you're like, oh, I'm cruising. You know what would
yeah.
have been great is if you were like, actually, I sped it up 2 times.
Actually, yeah. I'm actually gonna find the bit and I'm gonna send it you after this podcast
Yes.
because honestly, it's on YouTube if
Oh,
anyone wants to see it.
yeah, it is. God, thanks, Faye.
No
Perfect.
worries.
Yeah. It's okay. We could do like a side by side comparison and be like, 2 speed demons running up the hill, and it'd just be us like
Yeah.
like slowly crawling along up the hill.
We should
Yeah,
definitely
that'll be
start some
good.
kind of like, like Instagram theme where everyone like hashtags like hill running or something, where you have to like share your favorite clip of you running up a hill and thinking you're going really fast, but it's like the slowest motion ever.
I know. But
Oh
I mean,
god.
this is like to anyone, do your hill reps. See, obviously,
Yeah.
it's working for Lauren. She's now in the Elite 15. I'm gonna get there, like
Yeah,
I'm still
100%.
working on it.
And you'll move a lot faster when you're on the flat.
Yeah.
Then you will be fast.
You will be fast.
Right, moving on
Sorry.
swiftly.
Yeah.
If you could do, oh, this is going to be interesting. If you could do a doubles high rocks with anyone in the world, who would it be? Are you going to choose
Oh,
a partner you've already done one with, or a new person?
I mean, I feel very fortunate that I get to race with Lauren, but I thinking about it, I know he would never would. I try to convince my husband to do like these kinds of events, and he's like, I hate this. He did one deca with me, and he's like, never again. That was awful. I was like, oh,
He
but
probably
what
sees
about
that when
high
you go
rocks?
away. Yeah, no, go
Yeah.
on.
Oh no. So I mean, like he loves bouldering and trail running and doing all those things. But I think if I could convince him to do doubles with me, like that'd be so fun. So one day I'll break him down. We'll get
Yeah.
him. We'll convince him.
That would be cool, wouldn't it? It's nice to do it like together or do it with someone like family members and stuff like that. But he'll probably realize that if he does do it, he loses his vacation, won't he? He'll be like,
Well,
oh,
that's
I usually
true.
go to the
Yeah.
beach. But
Yeah.
now
He's like,
I've got
oh,
to rest.
sorry, that race is really cut into my beach time. I'm
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, maybe one day. Watch this space. Maybe in the future, we'll see. We'll see
Yeah.
what happens. Okay, next one. Do you fuel for high rocks? And if so, when do you take it in the race, and what do you take?
I have tried. Because I didn't at first, and I feel like it shows in the back half when you haven't taken anything because you just get so depleted. Like I've had both quads cramping, my calf cramping, and I'm just like, oh gosh, this is going to be so tough to finish with. So I've tried practicing at like sled push, sled pull, and then another around the rower. Um, Racing, my stomach does not do well. So, like I've even, taken some of the things I practice with. This might be TMI for people, but like in Houston, I had a honey stinger gel and it immediately just like almost threw
Oh,
up in the chalk bucket. So luckily for everyone else, I missed. We're good.
everyone gets to put their hands in the chalk bucket and it's just gel.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was,
they would
oh,
stick to them, honey and chalk, like the chalk would stay on.
yeah. I know. And of course, like when Anthony was watching, he was like, I saw you go for the bucket. And it was like, I paused and I was like, I can't. That would be so mean. So I was like, I guess the floor. So he was like, which bucket was it? Because I'm going to avoid that. I'm like, no, don't worry, I missed. So uh essentially what I'm saying is practice your fueling and hope it works on race day.
And if it doesn't work, don't go in the chalk bucket.
Avoid the chalk bucket.
Oh man.
Do you put anything on the table in the elite race, like any liquid, like not a gel, maybe?
Electrolytes.
Yeah, like it's not so bad on your stomach, or anything is just not good.
Yeah, I usually do. I mean, like in Houston, since it's an open course, like they don't have tables where you can put like your special little thing there, like you can in the elite. So on that one, I was just like, we're going for the gel, and
Yeah.
didn't work out so good.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know, it's so hard, isn't it? Like, and
Yeah.
if your stomach doesn't agree, that's just it. It's nothing you can do. Like,
Yeah, it's you're suffering one way or the other. So
yeah,
But
totally.
yeah, it's a good point. Like practice your fueling. Like if you
Yeah.
haven't tried it before, probably try it before you do in the race. Just
Yeah,
in case.
oh
definitely.
yeah.
Okay, next one is, what's your favorite type of training session for high rocks?
Yeah. I don't think I have a favorite kind of session. I just like the training as a whole. Like I
Okay.
love all the little bits and pieces that just like it adds up for everything. So if you go back and do the same kind of workout, you could be like, oh, maybe I have gone a little stronger and I didn't even notice. So the whole aspect of it is something that I love, that it's like so varied and you get a lot of diversity in the kind of training you do. Um, so I think that's kind of one thing that keeps me wanting to do hybrid sports, is that like the fitness that I get from this helps me that I could step into any kind of competition and do pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. That's so true. And it is varied, isn't it? With the running and the strength work. And yeah, it's not just one and you get bored quickly, because you
Yeah.
can mix it up. Yeah, totally.
Mm.
Okay, next one. In a nutshell, why should someone sign up for their first high rocks?
I think it's a great test of everything, honestly, like mentally, physically, just going through that kind of a race really gives you the chance to push yourself in so many different aspects. I think we touched on it earlier, like I think part of it that comes down to like being in the Elite 15 is how much you're willing to suffer.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. It's hard to like put yourself through that much pain and be like, okay, I got this, especially if you're starting to feel it a little earlier, like being in pain. I'm like, I still got another 6 stations after this. Cough, cough, sled push. So I just think it's a great way to really like test yourself in so many different aspects, and the community that is there is phenomenal. I love meeting all the different kinds of people that show up at a High Rocks race. So it's one thing that I feel like everyone should do. I feel like it's a cult, and I'm like, everyone needs to try this. Join us.
Yeah.
Join us. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Such a good answer. Okay, lastly, is who would you love to see on our podcast? Either a specific person or a type of person in the High Rocks world.
Well, one of my favorite people to talk to is Vivian Tafuto. So, I would say her, but I think you guys do a great job of getting so many different kinds of people on here. So, um, I don't know. Specifically, I'll say Vivian, but you have some pretty good judgment too of who you bring on. So
Oh,
I'll
thank
leave it
you.
at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Current guest.
Yeah, current guest
You
not
know,
excluded.
yeah. You're pretty good. Oh man, it's been an absolute pleasure though. It's been so good to be able to talk to you, to catch up with you, and to find out like how your season's going. I really hope it's going to turn around for you now. You kind of getting on top of how you're feeling and maybe some of the health stuff. Maybe hopefully getting a bit of a better balance and work eases off. I don't know, or you just do more intervals whilst you're doing your Zoom.
Yeah.
That's probably you're starting to work out ways around it. um,
Yeah, yeah,
but
we'll
yeah,
see.
yeah, exactly. Where can people follow you if they want to, see what you're up to and see how you get on in World Champs in Chicago?
Yeah, mostly I'm on Instagram, Lauren_A_Griffith. So I have been trying to do a little bit more of, getting a little glimpse into the kind of training I do, but um that's probably going to be the best place to find me.
Yeah, no, perfect. I mean, Instagram is kind of the place that most people go
Yeah.
to, isn't it? It's
Eh,
the easiest one to find people to follow and to see what people are up to. So it's great to be able to follow you. Well, all the best for
Thank you.
the next 12 weeks. We hope it goes really well. We look forward to watching you compete both in the Elite 15 and also with Lauren. Hopefully this time. I mean, I'm going to look out for the for the running, but hopefully this time maybe you'll feel a bit better and you guys can just absolutely send it. So use that race
Oh,
plan that
thank
you had
you.
planned for Houston.
I know, be like, hey, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We'll just carry that one over.
Yeah, but it's really nice because I think anybody that's watching like gets to watch you guys twice, like instead of just the Elite 15 race and then it's over. It's like it's a good opportunity to watch you guys race again and in a different like format, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's also nice for us, especially with how long it is. Like it's nice having the day break in between, but it's
Mm.
nice being able to travel and not just do like one event. It's kind of nice being able to do multiple because
Yeah.
I feel like you're getting more out of your trip.
Yeah, yeah, out your
Yeah.
vacation.
Oh yeah, on my Netflix in the hotel room.
Have you got anything else you wanted to ask or add?
No, I think like it's been awesome. It's been so nice to find out more about your season and life behind the scenes. And yeah, we're really excited to watch you race in Chicago. And hopefully this has been nice for everyone to listen to and learn a bit more about you and what's going on. But no, that's it, I think. We're good, Faye.
Awesome. Lauren, have you got anything else? Otherwise I'll
I think I'm
no.
good.
We're all good. We're all good. Happy
Woo.
days. Well,
Woo.
that was a good hour. Luckily, Lauren likes to talk about her rocks, otherwise it would have got super awkward. But I'm guessing everyone that's listening likes to listen to people talk about high rocks, so we appreciate it. Please share, like, follow, help us grow the podcast because it also helps us get amazing guests on like Lauren. And we hope to bring you another good episode next week. Thanks for listening.